Welcome to Connect Canyons, a podcast sponsored by Canyon School District. This is a show about what we teach, how we teach, and why. We get up close and personal with some of the people who make our schools great. Students, teachers, principals, parents, and more. We meet national experts too. Learning is about making connections. So connect with us.
Welcome to Connect Canyons, the podcast that bridges the gap between our community and its schools. I'm your host, Stephanie Christensen, and today we are discussing the topic that affects every student, parent, and teacher, the importance of school attendance. It may seem like skipping class isn't a big deal, but the truth is every minute in the classroom counts. So join us to unravel the significance of showing up in the classroom and its impact on Canyon School District. Let's dive in with our guests. Today we have Mindy Robinson, principal at Midvale Middle School, which is an important grade level to think about attendance with, and Chancey Lauren, program administrator and student services for Canyon School District. First, Chancey, let's cover what your job actually is, because I think when parents hear that title, it doesn't mean anything to them. So what does your job actually entail?
So student services is really looking at the wellness of students. We consider an umbrella of school safety and climate. So all the things that impact our students' success in schools, their physical, social, and emotional wellness, their school safety. So our school social workers, our psychologists, our nurses, our counselors, those are all folks that support our students under our department. And we're really focusing on all the things that students need to be successful in addition to their academics. So the umbrella that makes students successful in school.
So attendance obviously is a key in
Absolutely.
being successful in school. Mm-hmm. As a parent, and after the pandemic, I found that it got easier to let my kids stay home. Attendance has really become a challenge for the school district and for parents and for teachers. How has the district adapted to and helped promote and maintain student attendance during these challenging times? Because we're in a different world.
Absolutely.
It has changed, and there are concerns still. Like, you still need to be concerned about whether your kid's sick, the social, emotional health of your child. So how have we adapted as a district?
So one way is that we've put a large focus on our attendance campaign. We are encouraging kids to show up, and we're really helping to motivate parents to see the importance of attendance. We want we've provided graphics and motivational posters that encourage our students and families about attending regularly. We have developed trainings and collaboration with our school leaders with evidence-based practices so that they're aware of what it takes, really building those positive connections with students. When we know that students are connected to someone, whether it's peers, whether it's adults in the school, but having those positive connections, they're going to want to be in school. And so that's the most important thing, that we're really focusing on those positive connections. We've developed some resources and tools to support both our school teams and families. One of those that we're using is great communication strategies. So when students are out and not at school, we're asking questions. What's going on? Why aren't they here? We miss them. We want them to be successful in school, so let's get them back so that they can be. We have utilized the functional behavior assessment of absenteeism and truancy, which is it looks at all the different reasons why students may not be coming to school, and then we can address each individual reasons with some very specific interventions, and then support families that might need supports based on those reasons. We're providing additional school staff in our buildings. We're providing social workers, nurses, other support staff, really to address those needs and to work with families on problem solving what might be preventing their children from making it to school.
At the middle school level, what are you guys doing to help get kids?
Yeah, it has definitely been a challenge for us. And I think, as Chancey noted, the district's provided a lot of resources. So then we've looked at adapting to our population and how we communicate with our families, what works the most. At our school, we've created an attendance committee, and we've had a lot of different people on that. We have a community facilitator, we have a mentor, and we're doing a lot of positive communications. We're using Parent Square, saying, we just missed your child today. We've noticed that awareness is the key. That also as a parent, after COVID, I had 3 high schoolers who are like, oh, it's fine. I don't need to go. It's good. And I'm like, oh, but you do need to go. And then the one thing that we've really focused on my school is making sure that when students are there, we're taking advantage of every minute with them, that we're providing the best instruction. It's not just on Canvas, that actually being in school really makes a difference. And I think that's really been the key that we've been working with. One thing that I've at least done as a parent with my own children is related it to like a work scenario. Like mine are in high school now, and I'm like, you want to be productive, and school is about showing up. Like that is, and a job is about showing up. And maybe in some classes, it's not as important, your participation, but being a good student means showing up. And I also think that sometimes we have not talked about the complexity of what we can gain from being at school in a day. It's not just the academic, it is connections, like Chancey said, it's relationships. For many of my students, it's reliability of food, it's access to clothing, it's access to counselors. And so I think oftentimes a student just saying, oh, I can do the assignment. School is much more than doing an assignment. It's the interactions. As a school, we're really focusing on quality interactions with our peers and making that instructional piece so important. So I think it's hard, but I think we keep reminding our students that being there matters, and that there's so many things about their growth that are occurring with being at school, not just the academic piece.
We probably need to remind our parents a little bit that it matters as well, because I think a lot of absenteeism probably happens from long vacations. And
yeah, we get all kinds. I think at my school we have sickness. Students have a lot of responsibilities at home, and I think you're exactly right. Is what as a parent can you do to prioritize? Because this is all of us working together. We all want students to be successful, and so this has to be a team effort. And so we also realize that families are going to go on vacations, and they could learn a lot from those vacations. But this is where communication is key. Let us know so we can help you. At least in the middle schools, at my school, you're missing 6 periods in one day. So that means you're missing 6 different assignments. And that's very overwhelming. And it breaks my heart when I see kids coming back from a long absence and they're so overwhelmed, and then they shut down. So I think we also need to be very mindful of what missing school does when the kids come back. For some students, it's easy to pick up. For others, it's really challenging, and they sometimes feel like they can't get caught up, and they lose a lot of ground.
So that's the direct correlation between consistent school attendance and academics. Like, what do we see when kids start missing a lot?
Yeah, go ahead. She's like,
well, according to attendanceworks.org, it's a great resource for parents. It's a great resource for educators and school staff. But during the 2021 school year, at least 10.1 million students nationwide were chronically absent, and they estimate that chronic absence has more than doubled from more than 8 million students pre-COVID who were missing many days of school, and they were academically at risk. Chronic absence is missing 10% or more school days due to any absence. So it could be excused or unexcused, suspensions. But anyway, that translates to students having more difficulty learning to read by 3rd grade and achieving in middle school and then graduating from high school. So it is a significant impact. And as Mindy discussed, children living in poverty are 2 to 3 times more likely to be chronically absent because they face more, their community lacks the resources, or they've lost learning in schools. And then students from communities of color as well with disabilities are disproportionately affected. We talked a little bit about parents' attitudes towards attendance seems to have changed, and those parents that may be taking more frequent or longer vacations are impacting.
I also think anxiety is at all-time high right now, and it seems to me that, at least with my own children, a lot of the times when they're missing it's because of anxiety, and it becomes a spiral. Like, you miss, and then you're more anxious because you missed. But when they go and they're around their peers, it kind of lessens that anxiety. Like it's this crazy spiral that you can't seem to get out of. But you have resources at school. You mentioned before.
We have a lot of resources.
There's a lot of resources that I don't know that parents often know all the resources that are there. I work at a school district, and I didn't know until this year what a school counselor could do for my kids.
And I think that's the power of communication. We've told the parents. I had a really great experience this year of a young lady who had just really struggled since COVID coming back. And, I mean, it was very significant. But through the counselor, the parent, and I, we had a plan just to get her in the building. And even, by the end of the year, she thanked all of us. She just said, I didn't think I could do this. Like, after COVID and stuff, walking into a building was scary. But it was so great. I mean, the mom walked her in. We had a certain location, handed her off to one of us. And we're like, we're so happy to see you today. You got this. And it took a whole team, though. It took the parent reaching out and saying, my child's really struggling. It took myself with some of our wellness staff to create a plan for her. And you hit on it exactly. Once she got into the habit of attending more, it got easier because, for example, she was sick for a week. After that week, coming back was incredibly challenging for her. And I've mentioned previous, and I think this is also what we miss at the schools. Like you said, Chancey, they're getting a chance to be creative at school. They're getting movement. Even in the middle schools, their favorite time is at lunch when they go outside and play basketball, soccer, just walk around and connect with their peers. So I think sometimes those are our entry points for students struggling. And I do think parents need to know the schools want your child there and they will work with you. We've had to be very creative. We've done some kind of modified schedules and stuff to get students there that might have some sleeping issues, but our goal is to get you there because there's so much that we can offer the child once they're there.
Attendance habits really do start early too. I mean, we're talking middle school and high school. We're kind of focusing on that, but how can parents instill good attendance habits at a young age?
It really does start young, and especially now in Utah and Canyons where we're offering full-day kindergarten for all of our students. That's some changes. It's changing for parents, and I've had parents reach out. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm ready to let my kindergartner be in school all day. But really simple things like finding out who in the neighborhood's going to school. Mm-hmm. That way you can make a connection and find a buddy, find neighbors that are also going to be going to school, develop a plan for getting to school and getting picked up from school. Go to the school, try to see what the just entry looks like, and then make a plan to meet with teachers and the school staff. All of our schools have a back to school night where they invite parents and children in to see what's happening. If parents have a child that is more anxious, try to set up something before that night because that might be a little overwhelming. But they can go meet with the school administration or meet with teachers to see the school, to know where their classes are, to really alleviate some of the anxiety and anticipation of what's going to happen. Really importantly, and I think this is for every single one of us, and I could do better as a parent as well. I have an elementary and a high schooler this year, and our summer routines have not mirrored what school routines look like. So really focusing on those routines, setting things up and getting things ready the night before so that all of those things that could cause some anxiousness or anxiety in the morning are just, it's really clear. This is what's going to be happening. We're getting up at this time. We're having breakfast, or we have our backpacks ready, having homework prepared the night before. So just whenever we can have those routines and really clear expectations about what's happening, it makes everyone feel more in control, parents as well as children. And so just really establishing those routines. But then also as parents, setting the expectation that school is important and we are going to go unless we're really sick. And we have a great document that we provide to families of what it looks like. Is there a fever? Are children vomiting? Those are the things that, yes, they should be staying home for. But if they have a runny nose, then they probably could make it to school, and we'll provide some tissues. So there are a lot of things that we we're going to deal with at school, and we can support. If they have a bit of a tummy ache, sometimes we have tummy aches when we're nervous about things. Well, once we get through the door and get into class, they often go away because then it becomes really fun to be at school. So things like that. And also avoid scheduling non-urgent things during the school day. I have just had all of our dental cleanings so that, and I try to model this for my kids too. We're going to do everything we can in the summer so that we're not interrupting school. So our 6-month visit happens over President's Day. So no holidays in the Lauren household.
And I would just add to that, when I had the opportunity to be an elementary principal, just the mindset of the parents, just saying this is so important and being so positive before. I think that just made such a difference. And then if it is hard for your student, I had another student who just really struggled, and the mom and I always worked together, and we had to build a trusting relationship that the mom knew it was okay to leave her child there, even though the child wasn't sure it was okay. And over time, that really changed. But I think, too, that I've talked about before, the communication, but our own mindset as a parent, like, this is so important. And so that's why we're going to do appointments at different times. And we understand that things happen. And that's why, but for non-emergencies, I think you're instilling in the kids, showing up really does matter. And I think that really helps our students when they don't think they can negotiate, because I have some great negotiators in the middle school, and if every morning you get a chance to negotiate, it's going to be a lot more challenging to get to school.
Oh, yeah, I have future lawyers in my house.
Exactly, they're good.
They're very good, and I keep telling them, to be a future lawyer, though, you have to go to school.
Cool. Yes, so here's the path.
Let's do that and make some money off of it.
Additionally, Mindy, like you said, when you have students who might, I don't want to say school refusal, but that's a pretty extreme measure. But when students are concerned about going to school, then set up some sort of reinforcement. You made it. You got to school, and you get to have some extra time with a friend at home, or you get to have, something that's important to your child. Reinforce that expected behavior so that when they have done what you're hoping for, they realize that you're super proud of them and that you're going to make it worthwhile to continue to do that.
I know with my son in particular, I used to have, because of how anxious he was, I used to have to say, let's just go and try. If it really doesn't work out, you can call me. If you're really not feeling well, then you can call me. But let's just get through the door, see how the first period goes, and then, by all means, call me if you're still sick. And I never got a call. And it was so often, it's like me going to the gym. If I can just get through the door,
I can do it.
I can stay and be on the treadmill for a little bit. It's just that mindset of getting that first 5 minutes mindset.
Showing up.
Yeah,
it is.
It really
and I
is
think
showing
that
up.
is where, too, letting the schools know, too, so they can make sure that someone's greeting them and there's a positive face. Like, we are so happy to see you today. Because I have some kids who are like, I know you're happy to see me today. I'm not happy to be here. I'm like, but I am happy to see you today. And I genuinely am. And I think they get used to that. So the parent feels better, too. And even in middle school, I'm like, I'm so happy you showed up today. They're like, you missed me yesterday. I'm like, yes, I did. And they're like, and you noticed. And I think that noticing, I think a lot of times in the secondary schools, we can do a better job of really noticing, and that's where Parent Square's been such a great tool for us. Like, we just notice, is everything okay? Because sometimes it's not. We have situations where families are going through very traumatic things that they can't be at school, but then allow us to allocate those resources so that we can help you in those situations.
How important as a parent, particularly in elementary, is it to call and say, my child is sick today? Does that help with all?
I'm going to say yes, it does in terms of that. But I think what Chancey hit on earlier is really important. Missing school is still missing a school, excused or non-excused. And so if it's one day of sickness, I think it's always nice to know, because one, we know the child's safe, the parent's aware of it. Like, there's that piece. So I think always doing that. But I think really important is when the parents call, it's going to be an extended absence, or there's something going on that really could require additional assistance for the family. How that is critical, because at the secondary schools we have attendance secretaries, easy ways to excuse the absence. I just caution parents, just because you excuse the absence, you're not excusing the work. You can't excuse the experiences. So just really be thoughtful, because I have great parents that excuse the absences, but that's just an indication the parent knew your child wasn't there today. So I just think it's really important to communicate, but really communicate when it's bigger things that it's going to be on today, and possibly additional resources will need to be allocated when they return to school.
I think it's so important, though, to remember that it is a team, because I don't know why. As a parent, I just don't. Even working here, I don't think about the team and the community that I have in the school to rely on. I always think I just have to do this myself.
Or you
I
almost
just
feel
have
guilty as a parent. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, great, I'm in school administration, and my child, I get the phone call from the high school that says your child's missed one or more periods. And, like, you drop a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's when I finally said to my husband, like, we're going to go talk to the counselor because I can't be the only one. And then we found out more reasons why one of my children didn't want to go to school. And we're like, oh, that's kind of some stuff we can work through. But I think you're right. We could do a better job. Like, we're in education because we love these kids. And it's really hard to teach and love them if they're not there. Like, it's really hard to provide all of these incredible resources our district's allocated if your child's not there. So I think that's really important.
I think we had a graphic that was really interesting about every minute, like it translated to 10 minutes per day is actually like 30.
Yeah, it's a year. It's a half a year over by the time they're 13, 10 minutes a day. So I'm just going to come get them because the appointment's only the last 10 minutes. I love the, like, when you start saying, like, one day every 2 weeks, and now you're missing a year and a half of school by 13. And we've actually done these posters all over our building, and we also have them at the attendance desk. And so when parents are checking kids in or out, the other thing is we have a lot of problems with very late students. It was a hard morning, but like you said, you start looking at the money, 20 minutes a day, that's a year.
Well, and it has to be. I know a lot of times when my kids are late, it's actually my fault that they're late.
As parents, we're like, shoot, it didn't work the way I wanted it to this morning.
Mondays happened. But it makes you think, I am causing more trouble for my children in the long run. If they're missing half the class, I mean, how long are classes? 40 minutes and you're 20 minutes late.
And I also think you hit on the point, like, as a student who is already a little bit anxious of walking in the middle of a class can be very overwhelming. And I also think for teachers, everyone's like, hey, you're late today. I mean, so that is where, and again, we understand crisis, we understand unexpected things, but I do think as parents, even recognizing, I was talking to my brother who's in an industry where they have to lay off a lot of employees because they are so late to work. And I think that correlation is really important to him, that it's not just, it's parts of the day matter. Coming late matters. And if employees who have graduated from college still are losing jobs because of tardiness, that is something that we need to keep instilling on kids. Like, it does matter. And being a part of the community, you're there the whole time. It's harder when you come in. We don't get your insights that first 20 minutes. We don't get to learn from you, too. And there's a lot that each student has to give.
So what happens when there is a situation where it does become chronic absenteeism, where it's a serious situation?
Yeah, so at least at our school, I think the one thing that parents need to remember is we're working together and we want this to work. Now, with that being said, we have, for example, home and hospital. We have children who have been diagnosed with very serious health conditions that they can't be at school right now. So we have a home and hospital. We also, in the secondary schools, even in the elementary, you can do it. It's just a little bit different. Modified schedules, maybe based on some things going on. And I think that's where it's important, the conversation, because if your child's not healthy enough right now to be at school, you can have a home hospital teacher. You can have, and Chancey's department's done a great job of creating so many different flexible ways when you have true crisis and they can't come. And these, I'd say, health conditions, when we get really concerned is when we start seeing chronic absenteeism that's not based on that. And that is when we really do start talking to the parents, like, what resources do you need to get your child here? And there's usually other things. So I think there's two situations, health-related, that really the child can't be there, tons of resources. And then I think the one that's been more challenging for us is this chronic absenteeism, more based on maybe habits, behaviors, mindsets. Those have been a little bit more challenging for us. Do you want to add?
I would just agree, and I think it really, again, it's back to what you said, utilizing and connecting with the school team so that that partnership of school and family are working together, so we can look at why is this happening and then address each individual situation based on the needs. So
where's your first line of defense? Like, who do you go to first? Because often I think, especially when you're out of elementary school, it's really easy to go to a teacher when you have one teacher. Yeah. You go into middle school, your kid gets a little bit lost when they have emotional needs, and it's like you often feel like, I don't want to bother a principal because they're so busy. I don't know if it's school. It feels kind of confusing. Where do you go at that point?
I think in most secondary schools, the most logical place that kids would feel the safest is probably going to a counselor, including the parent, because at least my counselors, they do a great job seeing all the needs. And then many times they'll come to me and say, okay, we'd really like to get you involved. Here's what's going on with this family. They like more supports. And I think just the counselors is the easiest access point. I mean, administrators will help you all the time, but most likely I'm going to my counselor, and together we're creating a team because they've had a lot of this training on absenteeism. And so I think for most secondary schools, your entry point is probably either the social worker or the counselor. And again, if you have a relationship, you can call administration. We will help you anytime. It might just be that wellness staff is the most skilled and has some of the best things, and they're the best at figuring out if you need some of these additional supports. But I think maybe just going there, or to be honest, any adult in that building you feel connected to, if that you or that child, if your safe person is the vice principal, or your safe person is this one teacher, we're so collaborative in the secondary schools now that go where you feel comfortable. And even if it's the one teacher that's reached out, like, I've really missed your child, like, yeah, we're struggling, they can help allocate resources. So I think it's more just get in, find a person, and let the schools help you.
It may be the front office staff,
Yeah.
because that might be the only staff that you're physically seeing. And so, like Mindy said, the person that you feel connected with. But really, if you're struggling as a parent and you need support, we have them. So come and ask.
And a reminder, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be a student that is doing poorly grades-wise.
A lot of times they're not.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think, well, my child's got B's and I'm not going to get help because it's not a grade thing. So I think it's a good reminder that there are a lot of helps for other things.
A lot, yeah, and I think you hit on it that sometimes we just equate too much the academic grade, where in reality it is an early warning sign of possible not graduating with a lot of attendance. That is one of the very well researched, that when you're not attending school, that is a red flag in terms of graduation. And we know that by graduating, the long-term benefits, both financially and physically. And so I think just getting those habits, and like you said, it's not just the grade. That is a piece and a very important piece, but there's a lot more to schooling than just the academic part of it.
As a takeaway, what would you say to parents, just as a reminder, as we wrap this up, what would you say to parents about the importance of absenteeism?
My super simple is, we love your kids. We want them to be there. We can support them the best when they are there, and we are a team working together. So if you're struggling, please let us work together, because we went into this career because we absolutely love kids and we want to support them academically and their whole well-being. And when they're there, we can do that. And a lot of times at Midvale, we have so many resources, and it breaks my heart that I have kids that I can't access as resources because they're not there. And so I think just that reminder, we're all working together, but showing up does matter, and it allows us to allocate those resources to make your child be as successful as possible.
Ditto. Great job. Absolutely. I was an elementary teacher and elementary principal, and I told my students daily, you have to be here to be able to do anything. So you have to show up and really focus on those routines, procedures, expectations as parents. We're our child's first teacher, and they learn so much from our own behavior. So if we're expecting students and children to be in school, then they know that that's important. And so when we model that, then I was thinking about what you said about having my children late to school, and it's happened a few times. And I think, oh my gosh, I could do better. And so if I'm modeling that, hey, it's important to be there on time, then they're going to see the same thing, and they're going to want to be on time as well, and to show up.
I would just say one final caveat with parents. Instead of feeling bad about it, let us work together. Because I think sometimes as a parent myself, I'm like, oh, my child didn't go today, and I feel this guilt. Instead of focusing on that guilt, focus on what we can do and allow other people to help. Because a lot of times it's the person at the school that's more likely to connect with the student at school, right? Like if I can get my child there, like you said, get him in the door, and someone's checking it on, I'm like, oh, but I love this class. In high school, I get to do weightlifting. I'm like, yep, you got to go to school to do weightlifting. And so I think, too, just reminding parents that instead of getting in this kind of our own bad cycle of like, oh, I'm not a good parent, like, let's just figure it out so that we can help you, because both of us want the kid to succeed.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us at Connect Canyons. And remember that at Canyons, we're here to help you connect to the resources that you need so that your kids can be in school and learn the things that are going to help them succeed.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect Canyons. Connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Canyons District, or on our website, canyonsdistrict.org.